Ever since Bernie Sanders shit the bed and folded for Joe Biden during the primary, and then immediately after that joined the rest of the so-called elected progressives, but really a bunch of neoliberals, the Justice Democrats, joined all of them in leaving us for dead during the worst emergency in U.S. history, folded during the CARES Act, folded, didn't put up any fight during the entire year of inaction when the government left us for dead during the pandemic, of course, forced to vote the stimulus bill under Biden. All of these really defining moments for the movement. And so after all of that, there is understandably a lot of division on from what was once the movement to elect Bernie Sanders. And I welcome that. I think it's a good thing because if you have a huge movement like existed, and then the core strategy, which was to elect progressives that agree with us on policy and let them go to Congress and rock the boat and bust up the establishment and use the power of the people outside to create public pressure and to implement our policy agenda. That was a strategy that I agreed to, that many of you, my audience, agreed to, that everybody who supported Bernie Sanders agreed to. When that core strategy goes to shit and is an abject failure, we need to do an autopsy. And we need to understand what went wrong and how we move forward from there. And that is something that's happened. Like, disagreements is something that's always in every movement. The civil rights movement, for example, there was always disagreement between the more militant faction, like the Black Panthers and Malcolm X, and then you had like Martin Luther King Jr. and the black churches, who had differences in strategy in some areas, but they agreed in a lot of other areas, and they agreed on the main goals, and they were allies. But that didn't mean that they weren't going to have disagreements for the sake of unity, and they weren't ever going to fight. And in the end, all of their disagreements, all of all their disagreements influenced each other, and ultimately culminated with Malcolm X taking some parts of Martin Luther King Jr. and vice versa, and they got wins from that. They got the Civil Rights Act, and of course the job isn't done. Look at the state they're in right now, but still they got wins from that. So this idea that there just has to be unity, nobody can ever fight, everybody disagrees, that we like that end goal, and at no point in between are we ever allowed to publicly disagree and hash it out. That is something that has just been made up recently, completely ahistorical, and you can't find a single movement in history where that was the case, where nobody ever disagreed on anything. And bringing it back to today, what's happening right now, on one side of this populist movement, you have people like myself who agree, like I said before, the strategy of electing these progressives and using them to implement an inside-out strategy, that isn't going to work. That isn't going to get Medicare for all immediately to deal with the emergent crisis that we're in, a pandemic and the worst economic crisis in history. Trying to elect some progressives and over however many election cycles, that's not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it for the rent and mortgage cancellation, the tens of millions of people who are facing eviction because of their months of back rent. That's electing progressives over 3, 4, 5 election cycles. That's not going to do anything for those people who are going to be homeless. It's not going to do anything to end the wars that just keep raging on. So there are some people who have learned our lesson that electoral politics is a dead end, and it is not going to get our reach our goals. So we've moved to the only available option left, which is direct action and public pressure campaigns to force the hand of the politicians. It doesn't matter who's elected. Could be 100 Bernie Sanders in the Senate, could be 100 Mitch McConnell's in the Senate. It doesn't matter who's in the Senate, it doesn't matter who's in the White House, it doesn't matter who's in Congress. The strategy that I agree with, that I'm signed up with now, is we're going to make it untenable for them to keep ignoring the public, and we're going to force them to do their job and represent us and act on behalf of their constituents. That's the only realistic plan right now, in my view, and objectively, if we're being honest. And then on the other side of that, you have people who once supported Bernie Sanders and all of his so revolutionary policies, now becoming status quo defenders and browbeating us and telling us that we're being childish, we're being naive, and we're being unrealistic. And if we're the only smart way to go about getting Medicare for all is if we do it over time, maybe 5 election cycles, 10, 15, 20 years. That's the only way we can possibly get it. And until then, we just have to accept the incrementalism, the crumbs and the scraps that we get being offered by the Democratic Party. Those are irreconcilable differences. So we can't just operate with one side agitating for direct action and the other side talking about incrementalism. So, and the reason why is because there are a finite amount of resources. It's not infinite. There's a limited amount of money that this movement has. And I wrote an article about this since Bernie Sanders' 2016 campaign. And for his 2 presidential campaigns, and then to elect just a couple, I did the math for maybe like 8 of the Justice Democrats. This populist movement, this grassroots movement, has lit $270 million on fire to elect these people who are pretending that they were going to fight for us and bust up the establishment, but then took our money, took our endless volunteer hours, and then got elected, got themselves a 6-figure check, got themselves health care, rocketed themselves to national popularity, and then they turned around and told us to kick rocks and become partisan hacks and won't fight for us even a little bit. Not even now when they have all the leverage in the world to force our policy agenda. So over the next 5 years, next 6 years, we're going to waste another $270 million electing them? We're doing it again with Nina Turner. Over $4 million raised for her campaign. So are we going to keep wasting our resources on an objectively failed strategy, or we're going to do direct action? That is the fundamental question right now for the movement. Fuck everything else. That's why I'm not even doing any videos. Talking about the stats of Medicare for All and how many people agree with us, and all the horrific stats. Do another video about how many people die because we don't have healthcare. We all know it. The public already agrees with us on the policy. So what we need to figure out is the strategy and how we implement it. And that's where all of this angst and rage that's boiling over on the left is coming from. Which brings me to the topic of this video. Briahna Joy Gray went on Crystal Kyle and Friends, Kyle Kulinski and Crystal Paul's podcast, and there was a very interesting back and forth on this topic of the quote online left and us being divisive. And Kyle really, his take on this whole thing irked the shit out of me. You could say it triggered me, but it was very condescending and belittling. And honestly, there were some points of it that were just very intellectually inconsistent with the way that he was talking during Bernie Sanders' campaign. So he really irked me. But Briahna Joy Gray did a good job of explaining where a lot of this anger and frustration is coming from and how it's justifiable. So I want to show you that, and it's about a 10-minute clip. And there was a part of it that I even kind of disagreed with Briahna Joy Gray, and I get into that. But it's a 10-minute clip I think it's a good conversation. That's why I'm going to play the whole clip for you. I hope you watch the entire clip, and then I'm going to break it down afterwards. And by the way, I had to pay the $5 to get the video because I don't know if you all know, with the Crystal Kyle and Friend podcast, they had the audio version that's free, which is where I heard the clip to begin with because I saw Brown Joy Gray going on there, and I thought there might be some lively exchanges or some interesting exchanges like this. So I listened to it, and then I was like, shit. If I'm gonna play a 10-minute clip for you all, I have to give you the video. So I said, all right, I paid for the thing. So just so you know, I had to pay for this clip I'm about to show for you. So if you are able to contribute to the show, I have links to Patreon in the About Page of the YouTube channel and in the description box of this video. You can sign up and you can help support the show. There aren't really any exclusives on my Patreon. There is nothing behind the paywall. It's just a way to help support the show monthly and not even really have to think about it. I also have links to PayPal if you feel more comfortable doing a one-time contribution, and links to GoFundMe for equipment for the show, and all the links in the description box, and of course the links to my Substack article about the dumpster fire of the progressive movement. But I'm just incredibly grateful for all the people who've supported the show up until this point, and I have been a little shaky with the content lately, and I'm trying to get back at it. But I appreciate the patience. So now I'm gonna play the clip, and then I'm gonna come back and break it down. And one thing I want you to take note of before I play the clip is the whole question. To me, it was, I don't know how to explain it, but the framing was terrible, and just the question in and of itself, when there's so much to talk about, and even in this one specific niche topic of the divisions on the left. Again, I told you I explained briefly what the divisions are. People who want direct action and want to fight for the policies right now, and people who are pushing incrementalism. Instead of framing this a discussion on this on this divide as with more onus on the people who are turning into status quo defenders and explaining how they're wrong, he really spent the entire discussion on this topic browbeating the people who are agitating for the policies that we all agreed are urgent and emergent. So I'm going to play the clip, then I'll come back, and I have a lot to say about it. All right, so if you guys don't remember, the very first question that started this whole thing off is the online and left basically saying, trying to frame it as if the people who are online and engaging in these disagreements, framing it as if like the whole Twitter isn't real life thing. The people in the comment section, that's not real life. Those people kind of don't matter because that's not happening in real life. I disagree with that in so many ways. First of all, those people are real people, and this is there are a lot of people in new media who take this condescending approach to the people in their audience, and for the life of me, I can never understand it. All those people leaving 90% of those people leaving comments, 90% of the people on Twitter, those are real people. Engaging in these discussions, those are real people with real life stories, with real life policy needs, and these policies are life and death to them. So I always find it turns me off when people try to act like, that's not real life, and you can just dismiss those people, swat them aside, they're just making noise. It irks me because the internet did something amazing that people are not really they don't want to give the full credit to, which is that it gave a voice to regular people who, in normal circumstances, would not have any say in public discourse before the internet. They could not get on TV. They could not get an audience with politicians or whoever else, or media figures. And so now, Twitter, YouTube comment sections, all these other places, it gives regular people who have an opinion a place to voice their opinion. So the whole, to take that and try to dismiss it is the most elitist thing anybody can ever do, honestly. And then it's intellectually dishonest because when we all agreed with him, when we were all supporting Bernie Sanders, Kyle was one of those people talking about, oh my God, look online, look at all the support Bernie Sanders has. These are the most informed people on politics, and they all agree. Look, they all agree with Bernie Sanders. Isn't it a great thing? So that shows you how great Bernie Sanders is, because all these informed people online agree with him. Now that we're doing something that he doesn't like, we're being, quote, divisive, and we're infighting. Oh, now nobody should listen to them. Those people they're just making noise. That's not real life and all that stuff. So I find that incredibly intellectually inconsistent. Now, to Briahna's response.
Do you think that the fractures we see on the online left are real in real life? Like, do you think that that's representative of how, normie lefties in real life are feeling, or is it just online left is still very much its own little subculture and it's not representative? What do you think?
Well, I think that the psychology that's driving some of the behavior is real, even if in real life it doesn't manifest in quite such dysfunctional ways necessarily. I've been thinking about this a lot. I might write a piece about it. I think that what happened was Bernie came along and made us believe that the things that we need and should have already had were possible within a 4 to 8 year window. And I've made this reference before, but the same way that there's that cathartic scene in Good Will Hunting where Robin Williams tells Matt Damon, it's not your fault, and he starts crying. We've all been walking around pent up our whole lives. It's my fault, it's my fault, it's my fault. Here comes Bernie, it's not your fault, oh, we're going to fix it. And it was a kind of emotional catharsis that spawned 2 very successful presidential campaigns. And now it's completely over. He's 80 years old. It's not happening again. It's not clear who is available to pick up that mantle. And people don't really know what to do with all of that feeling. And I think a lot of people feel dumb to have believed. I think that you get that out of some of the dirtbag left, that they almost seems like they're embarrassed to have ever tried. And so they go into full sarcasm.
Doomer mode is called doomerism.
To full doomer mode.
Yeah.
And to justify the cognitive dissonance of having believed and then realizing that you don't have as much potential as you thought, there's not as much political promise as you thought, I think a lot of people are managing that cognitive dissonance by saying, I'm a very serious person. I know how politics works. We can do this, but it's going to take 20, 25, 30, 40 years. And anybody who's trying to still keep that energy, that movement energy that Bernie had, is just foolish and dumb and naive and childish. And the people who are still trying to keep that energy alive, I think, are many of the people who cannot compromise on getting those things because they are deeply affected personally by these policies. There are people, who have lost kids to suicide over healthcare concerns. There are people who are dealing with, grievous ailments and whose kids have died of cancer, and all of these things, that all the stories that we heard come out during my Bernie story and during the campaign. You can't put that genie back into the bottle. Those people didn't disappear. And so when you're dealing firsthand with the worst aspects of our failed social safety net and a bunch of smart, journalists at whatever publication are telling you to back off and chill out and just be patient, you're going to be pissed off.
Or be grateful that you're getting the crumbs, whatever crumbs you're getting.
Right. And so, especially when you're gaslit and you're told it's just impossible. A year ago, you were telling me it's 100% possible it's going to happen. And now you're telling me it's absolutely impossible and you're a dumb idiot for ever thinking it was true.
Right.
That kind of whiplash is not sustainable. So, of course, you're going to have disagreements. And so what I would like to see is people pushing the folks who are so confident that the movement is dead to be more explicit about it, because I think that they still want to hold on to the stolen valor of, oh, I support Medicare for all. Oh, I'm still a Bernie person. Oh, I still care about all of these issues, without doing the work that would be required to rehabilitate something in lieu of Bernie. And it's going to be hard. But the same people who are so like big brain, I'm smart and know better about it, they talk about organizing. They're like, you just got to organize. At the same time, they're really dismissive of all of that movement energy from the people who are still ready to be activated and want to get out into the streets. And that's where you get people making fun of like rallies for force the vote, and being very dismissive of the folks that should be at the heart of those organizing efforts.
So, but just to push back on that a little bit, I agree with most of what you said. In fact, I probably agree with all of what you said. But just to play devil's advocate here for a second. Aren't there people, though, who still have that energy and are still right on the issues, and they think it's possible, but since they're not really seeing the tangible wins, and they're correct to be angry about not seeing those tangible wins, that they turn into anti-electoralists, where they're basically like, this isn't working the way we're doing it now, so now, like, anybody who runs as a Democrat, I'm even skeptical of. Like, Nina Turner running as a Democrat. How dare you run as a Democrat? The Democrats have stabbed us in the back. We need to try this third-party approach. And the third party's polling at, like, negative 8%, and they think somehow that's going to get, be president in 4 years or 8 years, or even get any congressperson or senator elected. Don't you think that that also presents an issue where you mix this realism on the issues, where they're right on the policies, with this anti-realism on the way of actually getting this stuff implemented?
So, I make no secret of the fact that I, really, adore Senator Turner. And I very much hope that she wins. I think it's also smart to be skeptical of how much of an impact her election will have. And also to continue to push and hold her feet to the fire to make sure that she has the maximum impact by not doing what many other members of the squad have done recently, which is to basically behave like members of corporate Democrats when it comes to some significant votes and opportunities for leverage. So I don't know that I would describe it as anti-electoralist to have a healthy skepticism of these politicians. Now, I wouldn't, if someone were like, let's tank Nina Turner's campaign because we got to,
well, I don't know anybody who says that, but I do know people who say, I don't know if I'm going to vote for her because she's running as a Democrat.
Or I just don't care about this, or it's not going to matter ultimately.
I think it's incumbent on the candidate to make that person care. If Senator Turner is probably going to win regardless, right? But if she wants that vote from that person, I think that she has to be willing to say, I understand your concerns, and I promise you I'm going to behave differently than the politicians that have disappointed you in the past. I will force a vote on $15 minimum wage. I will withhold my vote from must-pass legislation in order to get X, Y, and Z for you, my constituents. I'm willing to do that.
But are all criticisms from the left rational? Because I think Nina does answer like that, and there are still people who are skeptical of it.
I think it's sometimes, and depending on the issue and depending on the interview.
I think people have been burned enough that they just feel like, cynicism is like a protection against that feeling that some people on the left had of like, I can't believe I actually believed that this could happen.
But if the cynicism gets in the way of people actually doing shit, then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that they're going to continue making the system work.
Well, look,
you see what I'm saying?
I don't think that the people of Cleveland are paying that much attention.
No. Of course that's true. Of course that's true.
On Twitter. So I'm not, if I thought it was threatening her in some material way, then maybe I would feel differently about it. But I don't know, man. My choice is usually not to be so mad at the flailing, disgruntled, weary individual.
Yeah.
Most of those feelings are really well rooted in reality. Their disappointment is real. And I don't, if you want someone to work for you, if you want someone to do the thing you want to do, if you want someone to pull a lever and vote, you got to appeal to them. And this is what I was saying to Chomsky. This is what I was saying about Joe Biden. My argument was never don't vote for Biden or, vote for Donald Trump or stay home.
Right. Make him
It was
do
make
some
Joe
shit.
Biden earn the vote.
True.
Just make him earn the vote.
Yeah.
But see, I guess my point is, I think Nina is doing that. And I do think that there's some subset that it's never going to be enough because they've been burned so many times. So they're correct to feel that they've been burned, and they're correct in all of those feelings of anger, and this is terrible, and this is wrong. But you can't let those feelings get in the way when somebody actually is trying to make things better. And the same way, like, I have criticisms of third-party politics because empirically I think it's not going to work. But I always make sure to say, whenever I talk about third-party politics, I voted Green in the past 2 elections. Like, I will vote for the candidate that I think is the best candidate.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So I need them to treat people who are trying to run as Democrats who are leftists, treat them the same way I treat the third-party people, where I'm like, I hope you succeed. For the love of God, please succeed. I'd love it if we agree on the policies. But I see a lot of people who are anti-electoralist in the sense that they say, no, I'm totally done with anybody who even describes themselves as a Democrat because the Democratic Party writ large has stabbed us in the back. Therefore, moving forward, anybody who runs as a Democrat, I'm automatically skeptical of, and I'm done with them.
So I think she did a great job of reframing this whole thing from Kyle's elitist armchair pontificating about these childish people online who aren't serious about politics, who aren't serious about winning. She did a great job of reframing it from, oh, look at those messy plebs. They're the reasons why we can't get anything, and they're just angry for no reason. She did a great job of explaining they were just taken for a fucking ride, and not just any ride. They were taken for a ride of their fucking life. Because, again, all of this, everybody was talking about political revolution. Bernie Sanders was talking about political revolution. Oh, we're going to bust up the establishment, and we're going to make government responsive to the public for once, for the first time ever. We're going to do that. And the 60,000 people dying because of healthcare, that's not going to happen anymore. That's unconscionable. That's unacceptable. And it's reprehensible every single day that the private health insurance system is allowed to continue unabated. That's what they were saying. They acknowledged what everybody else was feeling and the urgency of the moment. And now, on a dime, all those people, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Pramila Jayapal, Ro Khanna, on a dime, they all flipped. And now they're talking about incrementalism is the only way to go and making us seem like we're the crazy ones because we're still talking about the same shit that we all agreed to just a year ago. So, and she did a great job explaining that these people, again, taken for a ride and their lives are on the line here. It's not like, oh, Bernie Sanders dropped Medicare for all, so I guess I'm fine. No, the same people who are most mad right now are the people who don't have healthcare. They're the same people who, if they get sick, if they have some type of medical emergency, they're either going to go bankrupt or they're going to die and bankrupt their family. So it's life and death for some people. So that's why people are acting like it's life and death. That's why people are so upset. That's why people are so invested. And they aren't taking shit off anybody. And then, so in the very next question, again, back to blaming us as if we're the ones who shit the bed here and as if we're the ones who drove the movement into the ditch. Going back to blaming us and saying, oh, now we're being unrealistic and we're being childish and Nina Turner says she's running as a Democrat and we just said, fuck Democrats for no reason. We're saying fuck Democrats because, like I said, not one of them, not two of them, not three of them, not four of them. Every single one of these progressives who claimed that they were going to fight for us joined the Democratic Party and told us to kick rocks and turn into partisan hacks. Every single one of them. So, yes, it is the most rational response to all of that to say the next time somebody comes and tries to sell me the same fucking snake oil, I'm not going to believe them. They're not getting my money and they're not getting my votes. That is the most rational response to the shit that we've seen over the last year and a half. But why is he framing it as if, oh, we're childish for coming to that conclusion? And then, of course, Briahna's response on point, saying, yeah, people should be skeptical of Nina Turner. What the fuck? Did you not see what the Democrats, did you not see what Bernie Sanders did? Of course people have a right to be skeptical. And of course people should be pushing her to do the right thing. And she made another great point about how it's on the politicians to get our support. And Kyle has it completely backwards here. He thinks because it's Nina Turner that we should all support her blindly, no questions asked, just like he's been doing on his show, doing nonstop fucking propaganda for Nina Turner. It's embarrassing, not just him, everybody in new media. It's fucking embarrassing. They think that we owe Nina Turner our support. And it should just come no questions asked. That is fucking bonkers. Like I said, after everything that we've just seen. So yes, Briahna Joy Gray is right in this moment. It is on her to convince the people that she wants to vote for her, to convince the people who she wants to donate to her. It's on her to convince us that she's not gonna take us for a ride just like the rest of them. And then another thing that I want to back it up real quick, and the whole framing from Kyle again that, you know, people are skeptical of Nina Turner just because she's running as a Democrat. That isn't the only reason why people are skeptical of her. People are skeptical of her because she didn't come off a force to vote. Right there, that is checkmate. That is strike 1, 2, 3, and 4. Bitch, I added another strike to the game of baseball. Because you are all running on Medicare for all, just like the rest of the other charlatans. And when the time came, like I always say, the best chance in my lifetime to get a vote on single payer, and it happened in the middle of a fucking pandemic, the best chance in my lifetime to get that vote, and all the people who claim to support Medicare for all, claim to support single payer, they were either silent like Nina Turner, or they were opposed to it. That is enough reason for people to not want to support you when you were running for office on that very same issue. Because clearly when the time comes, you are not going to be on the right side of it. And it's not just the force to vote thing. She's been quiet as a church mouse during this entire Biden administration. He is, honestly, every issue, he's almost worse than Trump. Bombing Syria more than Trump in this time frame in his presidency. The whole assisting Israel in the massacre of Gaza. The shitty stimulus bill that he passed. Like, in so many ways, Joe Biden is shit in the bed, and he's not meeting the moment in this critical moment. And Democrats control the House and the White House. So the silence from Nina Turner on the Biden administration, it shows us that she's going to get elected, and she's going to go there and be a partisan hack and not rock the boat and not challenge Democratic leadership. Another reason to be skeptical. Another reason, many reasons to be skeptical. Like I wrote, like I mentioned, I was the only one to talk about this. She's hired DNC staffers to run her campaign now. So, again, another big red flag. She hired Jeff Weaver is advising her, and Jeff Weaver, I didn't do a video on this, and I need to do a video on this. Jeff Weaver was quoted in an article telling the Axios that, yeah, I'm telling Nina Turner that she needs to tone it down and she needs to not challenge Joe Biden and she needs to not be adversarial to Joe Biden. Her campaign advisor, Jeff Weaver, who we all know ran Bernie's campaign into the fucking ground, and then when it started the super PAC for Joe Biden, not only did she hire Jeff Weaver's telling her to fold for Joe Biden before she even gets there. That's another reason for people to be skeptical. So this whole thing that is just because she's a Democrat, that is completely, that wildly leaves out so much important context. And just one final point I want to make on this. It is, I watched the whole interview. At no point was he ever this up in arms about Cenk Uygur, hosted the #1 news show online, hosted the so-called home of progressives. Nothing to say about him and the shit that he's doing on the other side of this divide, obfuscating and being an obstacle to force a vote. Lying about Syria, doing pro-war propaganda and smearing anti-imperialist journalists like Aaron Mate and Rania Khalid and Julian Assange. So on the other side of the divide, there are people doing egregious shit, indefensible things that are completely antithetical to what this movement was founded on. And instead of laying into them and putting blame on them, blame that is rightfully should be put on them, because they're not just randos online with no follow. These are some of the most prominent people in the left movement, and they are doing they're completely opposite of what the movement should be. Kyle was never that up in arms, and he didn't even mention any of that in this interview. So it's just weird to me that all of this onus, all of this frustration is being put out on regular randos who are being beaten down and killed by the status quo. And Kyle's mad that we're fighting about it. So Briahna Joy Gray did a great job with his slapping out his bullshit. Old man, the online left is being divisive, the infighting. She did a great job slapping that shit down. And I disagree with the part that I disagreed with her on. It's a very small thing, but if you watch the whole interview and if you've seen how Briahna's talking about Nina Turner before, it was kind of disingenuous because so when he says, "Oh, people are mad at Nina Turner," and because Briahna Joy Gray says, "Oh, it's on her to explain that she's different from the rest of the Justice Democrats and that she'll first vote and that she'll hold up legislation," and Kyle says, "Oh, well, Nina Turner has made it pretty clear that she is different and then she would do those things." Again, I don't know where the fuck he came up with that because I just went on a list of all the ways that she's just like the rest of the shitty Justice Democrats. So, but Briahna responds to that and says, "Oh, well, it depends on the interview. Sometimes she says that she's different and sometimes no. She has personal relationship with Nina Turner. She has family in the district who might have personal relationship. So, and she's even said she's gonna go and campaign for her too. So she knows the truth that Nina Turner isn't going to rock the boat really, but I feel like she just didn't want to say it publicly because she didn't want to shit on Nina Turner. And I think that's kind of bullshit because let's just be real about it. But then again, she has her own personal bias. I don't agree with her, and I think she was wrong on that. But overall, this was a great exchange, and of course, she came out on top. She got the W on that. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section.